So, could this happen tomorrow? That's Zelensky on the left and Putin on the right, of course. We're hearing there could be a meeting in Turkey to talk about peace, to finally ending this crazy, pointless war. Wouldn't that be a great thing? And isn't it great that President Trump, unlike Joe Biden, unlike the establishment, actually wants a war to end? If this meeting happens, it will be, in large part, thanks to him. We don't know if it's going to happen. There's all kinds of speculation. They're looking at the Kremlin, who's coming in, who's coming out. I think it's a major step forward in the quest for peace. And how radical is that? Amazing where we are right now. That MAGA, the Make America Great Again movement, is anti-war. We certainly don't like useless, pointless wars, right, that go on, especially wars that we're in, that we proceed to lose. I think this is great. I love it, that it's on the table at least. Diplomacy is, they're giving it a chance. And that's fantastic. So President Trump continues his tour of the Middle East, a position of strength. He commands respect throughout the region. And the region, oh, by the way, has really improved. Now, that's the Crown Prince in the middle from Saudi Arabia. The guy with the beard on the right, he is the, well, relatively new president of Syria. And we've been on the outs with Syria for a long time. And we heard today that efforts are underway to normalize relations. This president has been basically the unofficial president for a long time, but now he's officially the guy. And did you know this? He was on the U.S. terrorist list back in 2013, put there, and there was a $10 million bond on his head. Look, he had al-Qaeda links. I don't like the guy necessarily, but some say you got to watch what he has done instead of some of the ugly stuff he has said. They say you don't make peace with your enemies, right? You make peace with your enemies. You don't make peace with your friends. Sometimes you got to sit down at the table with unsavory characters like this one. Maybe he's reformed. You got to deal with the world as it is. So it's something else I'm very optimistic about. Syria has been a killing field for basically 20 years now. President Trump did command the world stage, but more importantly, the Middle East stage, going into Saudi Arabia and calling out previous administrations for their mistakes. But I was surprised, actually, at how well he was received. Check out the Crown Prince there. He does some polite applauding, and then he just lets it rip.
With this historic state visit, we celebrate more than 80 years of close partnership between the United States and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Ever since President Franklin Roosevelt met with King Solomon's father, King Abdul Aziz, aboard the USS Quincy in 1945, the U.S.-Saudi relationship has been a bedrock of security and prosperity. Today, we reaffirm this important bond, and we take the next steps to make our relationship closer, stronger, and more powerful than ever before. It is more powerful than ever before. And by the way, it will remain that way. We don't go in and out like other people. It will remain that way.
Well, that really spoke to the prince. And there was a whole agenda about Iran. Iran, we don't have to be enemies forever. Let's fix this thing, but don't push us. Don't push us. It was a fantastic vision for peace and prosperity. And folks should watch the entire speech. It's about 48 minutes long. Half of it is about what's going on in America, and half of it is about the Middle East. And they've come a long, long way. Also, does anybody recognize this guy?
Every day in my interactions with everybody, every one of us is responsible for the outcome of this war. Every one of us, by our actions and what we do. And, when I call back home and say, hey, I need $5 so I can, put enough money together to get a vest for a Ukrainian, and I get no response, I'm like, I'm not sure that the world is as wonderful as I once thought it was.
Ryan Ruth, who took a shot at President Trump. I think he also watched a lot of MSNBC and CNN. The war in Ukraine is the cause, right? President Trump, a threat to democracy. I wonder if that fired him up. I wonder if that radicalized him when he went to that golf course in West Palm Beach and found a little sniper's perch on the golf course just outside. and stayed there for something like 10 hours or so, waiting for the president to come by. He was almost successful. We're very, very lucky that, yeah, a Secret Service agent spotted the gun barrel coming out of the fence, fired a few shots, missed him. Ruth got away for a time, but President Trump was on that golf course, and it was very, very, well, close call. When was that? September 15th, 2024. He was placed under arrest, and he was in court today. He was in court today, and here are the courtroom sketches. Now, he's looking to get some charges dropped, and on this matter, he just might have a little bit of a case. Now, he's charged with attempted assassination. That's staying on the books. That's not budging. He's in trouble big time for that. But he was once arrested for possession of dynamite, and that makes him a felon. And he's saying, well, the Second Amendment still guarantees me a right to a weapon. And also, he obliterated the serial number on his weapon. He said, well, that's also, you know, there's nothing constitutional about that law. You should drop those charges against me. Also, a witness came forward that day, saw him run around from the golf course. They flew the witness in a helicopter to the scene there and said, is this the guy? The defense is trying to say, well, they only showed one suspect. They didn't have him in a lineup. It was unfairly fingered by this witness who was set up to identify him. Good luck with that. He is in big trouble. And so is the Secret Service. I'm sorry. I'm not letting go. Some folks say, oh, no, it's still incredibly important. The culture of that organization, you know, after President Trump narrowly escaped death on the golf course that day, the Secret Service director at the time blamed President Trump for the whole thing.
This was an off-the-record movement. It wasn't a site that was on his scheduled, it wasn't part of his schedule. So there was no posting up of it because he wasn't supposed to have gone there in the first place.
Okay. President Trump golfs. That's what he does. He wasn't supposed to be there. Are you crazy? Are you crazy or what? And also, I got to say, you know, the Secret Service is known to say no to presidents. Sometimes they say, no, Mr. President, you can't do that because of safety concerns. But then again, they allowed this to happen. President Trump on Air Force One, and another very cool but totally inappropriate escort from yet another foreign military. This time it's Qatar. Those, we believe, are Qatari F-15s. Now let's take a look at the reverse angle. They're very, very close to the president's jet. Nobody gets to do this in the world, all right, other than apparently foreign militaries flying this close to Air Force One. It's not right. It shouldn't be happening. And it happened yesterday also in Saudi Arabia. They came, and I know it's cool, but, you know, there are things more important than cool videos on social media. Sometimes people, oh, I'm going to go by this cliff and take a picture of myself, and they fall down. It happens every day. People die trying to get cool pictures of themselves. And these Saudi F-15s, I'm sorry, look, the Blue Angels, the elite Blue Angels, guess what they never get to do? They never get to fly that close to Air Force One. The same goes for the Thunderbirds. They won't let them fly close to Air Force One because you never know when a pilot's going to go rogue, even the best in the brand. Sometimes the Blue Angels and the Thunderbirds fly together. But I've been looking and looking and looking. I've never seen anybody fly in formation with Air Force One other than the Saudis, the Qataris. Hey, look, the stealth bomber with all the Blue Angels. They didn't fly next to Air Force One. Air Force One is special. I have actually been right on Air Force One. It's a very, very cool experience. And that's why this is kind of bothering me. That's 20 years ago. I was flying around on Air Force One when I was a White House correspondent. It was a really cool experience, but bad things can happen. May I see the headline of the near catastrophe we had in New York City back in the day? Air Force One photo op causes panic in New York. Yeah. This is a great photo op, right? The plane flies right by the Statue of Liberty. If you can show me that picture. I know we're going backwards now. Looks great. But to get that photo, they had to fly in formation. And it freaked people out, as was reported at the time. Go ahead.
The Defense Department releases more photos, 146 images to be exact, of that low New York flyover by one of the president's official planes that sparked fear among residents and outrage by President Barack Obama. The mission was to photograph fresh images of the president's Boeing 747 with icons like the Statue of Liberty. But nobody in New York got word of the flight in April, as the large plane flew low with fighter jets nearby. The aircraft is better known as Air Force One. When the president is on board, on this flight, he was not. The head of the White House military office resigned after the photo op.
All right, I know it's Barack Obama freaking out and firing somebody, but part of the equation was the formation of the jets. It's not perfectly analogous, but that is how rare it is to see fighter jets right next to Air Force One. So you got these ones from Qatar, right? And what do we know about the Qatari military? Okay, you know, we're still worried about Qatar. All right, I like them, but I also know that they do business with bad guys sometimes, and that's not great for us. I mentioned yesterday Anwar Sadat, who was a man of peace, was killed by his own military in 1981 at a military parade. Everything was great. It was a great, big, beautiful ceremony celebrating the military, and some soldiers opened fire on him. And this is what you got to be worried about right now, whether it's our military. We have traitors in our military. We got thousands of people in the brig right now in America, people who sold out their country. It's happened before, and it's also happened with Qatar and Saudi Arabia. I mean, Saudi Arabia executes 2 military personnel for treason, state news agency reports.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.